You, as part of the cell nucleus, obviously have been a little more experienced in this place than most, just immersed in the cell environment and such. I want to see kind of, obviously know the whole history of the place too, and kind of how you're involved. And, we're curious about how you came to be involved in this, and what kind of personally you're hoping to see the place grow into, and how it.
Well, I came into this by going next door to pay rent, and this was January of this year, and our landlord told us that this space was becoming vacant. We've been up in our puppet studio up above for about 2 years, and the downstairs, which was significantly larger, was something that we had seen out of our window, but we had never even thought that we could be capable of handling it. But when our landlord presented us this option of expanding our workshop into the greater warehouse, we started talking to as many friends as we could about just a collective process whereby we would pool our resources and share our equipment, and basically share the responsibility of maintaining a property as the size that we were talking about. And at that point, there was a lot of feedback and a lot of support for this idea of sharing, because we feel like too many people have felt alienated in the last 10, 20 years, because there isn't an environment, a gathering space. There isn't a place to come together and exchange ideas and share inspirations. And so we felt like, because it's not available, we can't find it, well, then we need to create it. And so 20, 30 people started to build this momentum and build this idea into a point where we felt very secure, very confident that we could control and handle the responsibility of it, at which point the landlord granted us permission to lease the space. So that's how it started out. And at that point, we were kind of envisioning an opportunity for all crafts to be represented, from the ancient to the high tech, because we really don't want to lose, what we once had with our hands, handcrafts. That it's like so easy right now for computers to just take over and redirect, but there's something about working with your hands, and something about paying homage to what our ancestors and our elders once did, that is very important in the development of our future. And we felt like if we had a space where all of those disciplines were represented and were intermingling, this would be the best prescription for the future. So we wouldn't lose anything. We wouldn't alienate ourselves in the old or the new. We would kind of encompass all of it and learn from each other. And collaborations is one of the main strongholds here. So that's basically what the original vision was to kind of mix all the disciplines.
And you found that once the forum was created, originally it seems as an extension of Monkey Thump, but once that space existed, it brought in artists from many different other disciplines in the community and such like that to create a better whole in the long run. Or you want to talk a little bit about how that came to be and how you came to know some of the people in the area?
Well, when we talked about developing and expanding the puppet workshop, very quickly we realized that there were a lot more people starting to become interested in the space that would not be directly involved in puppetry, and very quickly we realized that this space wasn't going to be a puppet studio. We would utilize elements of it as a puppet studio, but we also realized that there were metal workers and people working with wood and people, dancers, and people working in costumes and computer technicians and whatnot, all starting to come together. And we were realizing, my goodness, this is something greater than anyone could have imagined. We need to basically be all-inclusive and receptive to any discipline that might come through. And so, it's exciting because they actually all relate to production, of some sort, albeit a theater production or a community project, an outreach program. One of the things we're working with right now is developing outreach programs that will be facilitated by 2 or 3 people, but will plug in all of the different artists that are represented here. So in like a 10-week program, we can have like 6 guest artists come in and do some element of the program, so that they don't have to commit to a long stretch, but yet they get an opportunity to share their knowledge. And the children and the adults that we'll be working with will get, you know, an expanded curriculum, because we have access to a wide range of individuals. We don't have to go find someone to share insight about set design, because the person, you know, is right here. And similarly, we don't have to go find or hire someone to work video, because they also are right here. It's just a matter of asking someone, hey, we've got this program, it's starting up in January, could you commit to 1 weekend or 2 weekends in February? That's when we're going to need your support. And so we're realizing that teachers are in all of us, and that the artists that don't have, you know, like a standard concept of how to teach, start to realize that they do have something to share when they start getting plugged into a program that doesn't demand all of their time. They just can fit in as they see fit. So as a result of it being all-inclusive and opening ourselves up, we've kind of, you know, mutually benefited across the board, because, you know, everyone gets a position in our outreach programs, which I believe is a very strong element to the place, is sharing the knowledge. You know, once we've corralled all the people and brought them all together to a place to gather, the most logical thing that happens naturally is the exchange of knowledge and the exchange of information. The learning process starts there. It doesn't start in the classroom. It starts in the meeting of people, in the social interaction, basically.
Sure. And then, let's see, I'm trying to think of, do you want to talk a little bit about, you're going to be having a performance coming up on Sunday, and I know it's going to be Monkey Thumb Puppets as well as a couple of other groups.
Yeah, well, actually, I want to talk just briefly about what we try to do with the puppetry that we're working with. Because of all these disciplines that have started to come towards us, we've been expanding and opening up into all these different formats, utilizing dancers with masks, utilizing projection in our shows, and utilizing instrumentation, rhythm, and whatnot. The thing that we're doing with the puppetry is trying to create a universal language of rhythm and movement that doesn't rely on, you know, a dialect to tell the story. It relies on a visual storytelling. And this is something that can cross boundaries culturally, physically, and can start to like reach out into other groups that have somehow been alienated by traditional society. And so utilizing you know, drums and movement and all these other elements that we're talking about is kind of critical in expanding an audience, and, you know, expanding the range of information that you can share. Certainly there is room for dialogue or narration at times, but, you know, some people still aren't going to respond to that, because if they have their roots in another culture or another language, they won't understand the dialect that you happen to be using. That's why we're trying to focus more and more on visually telling a story. And that's done utilizing the universal language of rhythm and movement. That's where we're at. On Sunday, we're going to be doing a benefit for CELL with another puppet troupe called, I think it's Smoke and Mirror Productions is doing, it's a female puppet troupe. It's kind of a healing, empowerment piece that I think a series of 5 or 6 women are working on. And it basically goes between a puppet sequence and then a movement sequence. And it just alternates between the two. And it's about 45-50 minutes long. They've been working on it for a couple months now. And they approached us to do a benefit for CELL, because they realized that in the early stages of our growth, there's the critical periods which we're in right now, and they recognized our need and approached us about doing a benefit for Cell. And when they approached us, I realized that this would be a perfect opportunity to do a small festival on puppetry, and Monkey Thumb could participate and do, you know, the next installation. So those two puppet troops are going to be the featured acts, you know, the Smoke and Mirror, and then Cantankerous Lollies is actually a part of that ensemble, the Smoke and Mirror Productions, and then Monkey Thump will be the second. And I think there's going to be some aerialists and circus performers as well. They're very excited about working here because they're pulling themselves from the traditional circus environment and doing some kind of cabaret acts. This is something that they haven't been able to explore, mostly because the space hasn't been available to them in the past. And they look at the space here and the rafters, and they're able to rig some of their trapeze equipment and their aerial equipment, and in an atmosphere that's not, you know, it's just basically an opportunity to share elements of what they're working on personally, you know, out of the context of traditional circus. So that's happening on Sunday.
Great,
Yeah.
great. Stop for a second.
Okay.
Okay, so whenever you feel up to it, it's back on it. There we go.
Originally, when we first took over the lease on this space, we thought this was just, you know, a t-shirt factory. It had been a t-shirt factory, and upon doing demolition, we uncovered a wall, and behind the wall was a vault, and inside the vault was this document, and on it was the Crucible Steel Crucible Steel Company of America, and we realized that this was, you know, this building had once belonged to Crucible Steel, and we started researching, you know, some of the history of Crucible Steel. At one point, a collective member came up to us, Alex, and brought to us a definition of what Crucible meant. And this is something that's significant because it just has a lot of pertinence to what we're trying to do. And what he came up with was Crucible, a place or situation in which concentrated forces interact to cause or influence change or development. Very much in line with where we're going. We basically realized that to influence change, you have to get in a system and redirect it from within. Instead of trying to fight the system and react against it, we determined that we needed to just kind of rely on ourselves for a need that we realized. Why wait for some government official to recognize a need that we feel and allocate funds for it? Instead, times are changed. The funding is drying up. The need for the community to respond to the community needs directly is becoming more and more pressing. And so we're feeling that this is what is happening, and it is very much in line with our motivations to redirect, you know, the way things are, and basically set a precedent for how people gather and provide for themselves.
Great. And okay.
When we first took over the lease on this space, this was all offices with a drop ceiling, and we didn't really have a need for so much office space. And we realized more that the people that are gathering want to exhibit, want to show their work to each other, want a place where they can, you know, put their stuff up and receive attention and receive criticism, receive input. And so what we did was we tore out what was and basically rebuilt the walls safer and constructed an area for presentation, for exhibition. This is something that we do just for free, and most galleries have, you know, are directly tied to the lease that they have with the building, and they have a, you know, they have a cost, you know, so they have to create a business around exhibiting work. Because we have the space provided for by the collective members, we don't have the need to turn the exhibition of art into a business. So we are a space to for the public and for the community to show their work, demonstrate the projects that they're working on, and not have to like feel as if they have to sell their work in order to provide for the space to show their work. This is something that we feel strong about, and something that everyone realized and recognized is important to basically gather the community closer and give each other opportunities to reflect. And I think we're doing a good job on that front.
That's great. Okay, so we go in the main space like this. Okay.
The word cell came to us as kind of a metaphor, because we realized that a cell has in its walls everything necessary.
I want to stop for a second. Yeah. Background noise is all right, but that would be a little ultra.
Okay.
Yeah.
We came up with the acronym CELL to basically serve as a metaphor for what we're trying to do. Inside of the walls of a cell is everything you need for life. You've got the Golgi complex, the mitochondria. Similarly, we wanted to create a facility that had everything in it that you might need to create, life, to create art, to create elements of life that are important to us. CELL stands for Collectively Explorative Learning Labs. And it's pretty broad based. It opens it up for anything. A lab can be a lab of computers. A lab can be a lab of metalwork. A lab can be a kitchen lab, where we teach nutrition. Basically, we're just keeping it as broad based as possible, but in a collective sense, so that we can make room for new disciplines that might come to us later in the project. It developed when 30 people decided to share the cost of this facility. This was about 9 months ago, and people decided and determined, well, okay, $4,500 is a lot of money, but if 30 people share in that cost, it's only $150 a month. Sure, they don't live in it, and sure, they don't have private space, but they get access to everyone else's equipment. One of the things, someone came in and said, I have a sewing machine, but I want to use a welder. And we said, that's great. Bring your sewing machine in for collective use, and you'll be able to use anything else we have. Video equipment, musical equipment, rehearsal space. And that's when we really started to generate a lot of interest, is when we started providing more and more, as people started saying, I'm in, I've got this. I sign up too, I've got something else. And it just kind of continued to expand until all of a sudden we had all these resources that no one could have envisioned on their own, because it was a group process. And once that was secure, people started recognizing and realizing that it's something, the benefits of coming together in a community.
Should we take a walk down? You can just talk about the installation of the dance floor. That there's a dance community going on here. And then we'll just continue down to the studios and do the blurb on. And then, do you want to introduce the shops at the end, or just stop with the studios and stuff?
No, we'll take a look back there.
Okay. So, just like 3 or 5 minutes between here and there.
Okay. Basically, when we first came in, there was quite a few dancers and theater type people that recognized the importance of having wide open space to rehearse and to exhibit and demonstrate. So we installed a dance floor on a pre-existing subfloor, and we basically just put down particle board and treated it with a sealer, and it seems to be very receptive to some of the dance community. There's been quite a few projects that have been based out of here and rehearsed here, and some people exhibit their work other places, some people choose to exhibit their work here. But this is more of a place where workshops and classes and rehearsals can go on. So this dance floor kind of serves our dance community, and it has an opportunity to double as floor space for community projects such as crafting and whatnot. But this is what we determined needed to be done by the needs of the community that we had with us at the time.
Just gonna take a little walk around.
After the dance floor, this was the second thing that we did. After the gallery, we installed the dance floor, and then after that, we started to develop classroom space, and recognizing that with all these groups that we were serving, there was more and more need to have a private space and we're entering the studios and classrooms that were developed over a series of months. This one actually is being shared with the Mexican Cultural Activities Group, and they've got a computer literacy class. They've got computers that they have brought into this space that we've offered them. And on Saturdays, they teach a computer literacy class with children in the neighborhood. It's a Latin community, and every couple of hours, artists from our community are going to take the children out of this room and do a workshop either in drums or movement, just to get the blood flowing, you know, to get them out of the technological environment and get them into a more kid, you know, kind of very energetic, enthusiastic environment for 20 minutes, and then they'll come back in, and we believe that they'll be able to focus their energies better because they've had a break, because they've been able to get the blood flowing. In addition, the Mexican Cultural Activities Group is letting us use their computers during the week for internet access classes that we're going to be offering to the adults in the community as well as children's after-school programs. So partnerships is really the building blocks of community, and
by alliances within the community and helping out.
Exactly. So by striking an alliance with this already existing group that had equipment, that had a program, it just didn't have space. And by striking this alliance with this group, we benefit because we get use of their equipment when they don't use it. And we can offer greater resources to our extended communities, and moreover, our communities, their communities, and our community can start to meet and interact, and there'd be this link. So this is one of the reasons why we had these classrooms developed in the first place, is because we needed opportunities for this to happen. You know, in a large space, you can't have private corridors, you know, and so this is something that we determined early on, and I'm stumbling now, so.
That's all right. And all these studios were built by experienced members of the community who's had some construction and wood experience.
Well, what happened was we can
And for
actually
legal persons, we don't need to include this. I'll just put it on tape. But
yeah.
if you feel we shouldn't include it, we
No,
don't.
I think it needs to. Maybe we go upstairs because those doors
Wait
look.
for the white balance to adjust here. Let's turn it off. An environment in there, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
As far as
No, it's cool.
Okay.
Basically, these studios were constructed over a series of 4 months by a team of qualified.
Why don't you actually stand on the bridge and we'll do it up there, maybe?
Okay.
Wanna do that? Or. We can just put the ladder off to the side, and I think that would be great.